one was in regards to Russia initially coming out 3 or 4 days ago, maybe 5 days ago now, talking about potentially banning crypto. Well, that was very quickly sort of trumped by the next day, the next 2 days by not only the finance minister, the director of finance, but then also Putin came out, President Putin, and basically said that he actually thinks that Russia is in a unique position to be competitive, again, have a competitive advantage against the U.S. Primarily, and you can go through and read this article yourself. It's on Yahoo Finance. But essentially what he's saying is he's discussing the fact that Russia has so much surplus energy, but then in addition to the surplus energy, they also have cheap energy to boot. And with that being said, they already hold, I think it says here, 11.2% of the global mining hash rate, which if I'm not mistaken, they're the second largest nation to have the amount of hash rate that they do.
They've also got natural coal too, which is a really big deal for them.
Mm-hmm.
They use that in the natural gas industry also.
This will be interesting to see how this plays out. You know, I was joking with Tim yesterday. You know, I'm not going to say the word, but the cold blank that we are in from the 60s all the way to the basically the late 80s. You know, is it the cold blank storage war?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
well, here's another thing. I know they say that I know the central bank of Russia doesn't want it, but what really? I mean, how many things in Russia happen against Putin's will?
Not very many.
If Putin wants something,
if Putin wants it, Putin gets it. And also, here's the other thing. But I forgot who. Somebody said in chat earlier, with the sanctions that could be placed on Russia, there's a potential that they could be locked out of SWIFT, which is a way that money it's the way the global economy's credit and debit system works. If they get locked out of that, then maybe they'll say, hey, well, we'll just adopt Bitcoin. That's probably not going to happen, but it is something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And now running through the rest, this is just, I mean, we could go into stories and all these different opinions about the Fed meeting yesterday. But at the end of the day, it comes down to this. The Fed signaled it's ready to raise a key short-term interest rate in March for the first time in over 4 years. The bank's benchmark rate has been set near zero through the entire pandemic. The bank is also poised to start reducing this is the key point right here. The bank is also poised to start reducing its $9 trillion stockpile of bonds, perhaps as early as the spring. So this is something we're really going to have to watch. And I think this is this sort of caveat here, and more so the indecision about actually, hey, make a call, make a call about what you're going to do. Like have the cojones to do what needs to be done, or say you're not going to do it. Stop having this indecision, the speculative, questionable. And I think that's this questionable narrative is why I think not only the traditional markets, but Bitcoin and crypto included, are having this sort of upswing, downswing. Nobody's willing to make that first move because everybody's unclear about what's going to happen.
Yeah, well,
now going into, go ahead.
Well, the thing about the thing about monetary policy is that you're looking for a definitive answer from somebody. You need to have a clearly defined direction from someone. Who's in charge of that? The Federal Reserve. So when they come out and say, oh, well, we don't know, we might do this in 3 months, we might do that in 3 months, we don't really know what we're going to do, then that causes a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that's why the stock market has dropped so much, in my opinion, and that's why crypto's dropped so much. We need a definitive answer on what we're going to do about the inflation. We are sitting here and letting a bullet wound bleed out instead of saying, okay, let's take the bandage off and let's put sutures on it, or let's put, another bandage on. Let's do something instead of just letting it sit here and fester, and that's what we're doing. And Jerome Powell, it would have been nice to have a clear answer, but we didn't get that. And I just want to show another tweet really quickly here from Matthew Hyland, at Matthew Hyland _ over on Twitter. He said, I tagged all the FOMC meetings on Bitcoin chart over the last year, not drawing any conclusions, just providing the data. If you take a look at this chart, you can see the FOMC meetings, Federal Open Market Committee meetings, which is what we're just seeing, mean basically nothing. It's like everybody freaks out about it. And it's not that they mean nothing. There normally are some small little movements that follow these meetings. And then guess what happens? The market forgets about it in a week. So this is a nothing burger story. If they had to come out and said, okay, we're raising interest rates, or okay, we're not raising interest rates for 2 years, or okay, we're cutting quantitative easing down by 60% or something, then that would have been a big deal. They didn't do that. Basically, what Jerome Powell came out and said is, we're maybe are going to do something about quantitative easing. We're maybe going to do something about our $9 trillion in bonds, and we're maybe going to do something about our interest rates. But we're not. But we don't know what we're going to do yet. We have no idea. We just want to let you know that we're thinking about it, right? Because we want confidence from our regulators, but that's not what we're going to get when you're dealing with the Federal Reserve. The only thing you can bet on is that they'll continue inflating the U.S. dollar to the point where you don't have any more of them, or in fact, you would just need so many of them that you'd have to have a wheelbarrow to go and buy a Big Mac at McDonald's. But maybe I'm being a little too harsh. The sad thing is that Jerome Powell really is backed into a corner, so I do feel for him. I'm not trying to demonize the man. The fact is, it's a broken system that he inherited, and it's a very, very difficult system to fix, but we do need to start taking steps in the right direction to fix the system and slow down the inflation and raise the interest rate so the economy is not running on steroids like it has been for the last 2 years, because you can only drink so much coffee in a day before it starts messing with you. Believe me, I know all about that. I haven't had any coffee today, actually. I'm just excited. This isn't even caffeine. I'm just excited. Anyway, Tim, I want to ask you a question about all of this. What do you think? A lot of people it's very easy to blame the president or blame a congressperson or blame a mayor or blame Jerome Powell. I really don't want to come on this show and blame Jerome Powell for more than he deserves. He really did inherit a bad system. How much of what's going on right now is Jerome Powell's fault, and how much of what is going on right now is the fault of the system that he inherited when he was appointed?
If you want a number, I don't have a number, but I'm glad you asked a question like that, because I wanted to talk about something you said before, and it answers that question. Maybe it's not all Jerome Powell's fault. However, he was hired to do a job.
That's true.
When you don't get the job done, it's time to find another person. And maybe he did the best he could, but guess what? Especially when we're talking about the market that runs the entire global economy. If you're not doing a good job being the head of the market that runs the global economy, it's time to find somebody else to do the job. Is it all his fault? Probably not. But is it somewhat his fault? Absolutely, because that is his job. Now, if his hands are tied, now we get into, all right, voters. I know this show does not get political often, so I'm not going to make any type of recommendation. But guys, it's make sure you're paying attention to who you're voting for.
Yeah, go out and
Don't
vote.
just read one issue and say, well, that's who I'm going to vote for. Look at all of it. Look at everything that's happening, because if you think that voting on one issue is going to change everything, when you don't pay attention to certain issues, they come back around the back door to bite you in the butt. Just because you got the one thing you thought you would get doesn't mean that thing's not going to get taken away from you because of something else that you weren't even aware of is happening. And in this case, again, is it Jerome Powell's fault? I don't know. Is it the government's fault? Ultimately, they're the ones that put him in place. So yes, it is their fault. Yeah. So either they need to find someone else to do the job, or we need to replace them for their jobs and elect someone who will pick the right persons for the job.
So, Smay, you just said in chat, and I love it, imagine your money being dependent on a meeting lull, and that's absolutely true. What do we do, Smay, to reverse the system that we're currently in? Because we're in a long string of dominoes, and the dominoes are falling and falling and falling and falling, and then you get somebody in the Federal Reserve chairman seat, and he might try and prop up the dominoes and stop them from falling, but he's going to get crushed. Like, Jerome Powell alone, I don't think has the power to stop all of this inflation. He's already set things in motion in his term and have been set in term in the last 50 years. How do we unravel this broken system of financial management that our government is using?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is just my personal philosophy, but it's time to start taking matters into your own hands, right? You can't hope that somebody else is going to take care of you for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of the things, especially now, people always thought that applied to everything else in life but money, right? But no, now we're in a world where it can apply to money as well. You have to take responsibility for your own money. And that means, hey, I think at this point, people are waiting and depending on the governments to adopt Bitcoin. What happens if we all just adopted Bitcoin? And now I'm kind of pitching a utopia, right? But what happens if we all just adopted a decentralized currency like Bitcoin and just said, we're just going to exchange this, forget about the government, you know? And then they would have to do it because we did it. And that they need to maintain some kind of power, some kind of grip, but we've taken that away from them because we have the power to do so. Like, that's the thing about it. So it's like, I think too many people forget that there are, what's the population of, I'm just going to speak for the United States. 330 million. How many people work in the government?
About 3 million, 4 million, something like that.
Okay, so those are two very different numbers. Yeah. So it's like, who has the power, really?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Us. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe,
Yeah,
I love what you're saying, Smay. I'm Kelly, we'll go to you in just a second. I love what you're saying, Smay, but here's what people need to realize. It's not as simple as what Smay just said, the utopia concept of, why don't we just all go ahead and adopt Bitcoin? That would be perfect. Is that going to happen? No.
Yeah.
Here's what has to happen. If you're just sitting here saying, and I think this is what a lot of people make the mistake of doing, I'm going to worry about me, myself, and I. If other people want to do whatever they want, that's fine. Here's the reason that does not work, is because if you stay in your house, if you just do your own thing, and you expect the rest of the world is never going to come in and infringe on that, you are fooling yourself.
Yep, that's true.
You have to be proactive. Why are we as a channel so big about community? If any of you ever wonder why we talk about that word over and over and over, it is because if we have an individual mindset, if we have a I'm going to worry about me, myself, and I mindset, guess what? Your house might not burn at first, but when the rest of the world burns, eventually your house will catch fire. Rather, get outside of your house. Go help others. And what I mean by that is, don't sit on the sideline and call people idiots for not getting into crypto. Go educate them. Go talk about it. Get it out there. Like videos. Share videos. Like even this, the whole series we just made, Why Bitcoin? Maybe you already knew all that stuff. Share it with people. Go find, and don't even just want to pump our channel. There are so many good pieces of content out on the internet. Find them, share them, evangelize crypto, because utopia will not happen by itself. You have to be proactive, the individual. And when the individuals cease to act individually and do things in a community basis, that's when the world will change. That's when the governments will have to actually listen to us. But it's that concept, if I stand by myself, I'm one person. If I combine with everyone around me, I become a massive force.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, you should definitely consider subscribing, because we're trying to help you become financially free in these cryptocurrency markets. And also, consider following us on Twitter @CryptoJebb for more updates on the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Peace.